What if I told you that the way most people think about business success is, well, just plain wrong? Today, we're diving into the hidden costs of winning, and trust me, it's a game played very, very differently than you'd expect.
Think back for a second. You remember, right? Every town seemed to have a cozy little bookstore, and the malls had those huge Borders superstores. Then, almost in the blink of an eye, they just started vanishing. Now, the easy answer is, oh, Amazon happened. But the real story? It's so much more interesting than that. It's a story of two totally different ways of playing the game.
I mean, on the surface, the differences seem pretty straightforward. You've got the traditional bookstore paying a fortune for a nice storefront, and they can only fit so many books on the shelves. Then you have Amazon, operating out of these giant, cheap warehouses, offering a catalog that felt practically infinite and all at lower prices. But to really understand how Amazon didn't just compete, but completely crush the old model, we need to start thinking like an economist.
And the very first step in thinking like an economist is realizing that not all profit is created equal. You see, there's the profit your accountant talks about, and then there's the one an economist sees. And that second one, that's what tells you if you're actually winning or losing.
Okay, so accounting profit, that's the easy one. It's your revenue minus the stuff you actually write checks for. It's what you show the tax guy. But economic profit, oh, that's where it gets really interesting. It includes all of that, plus this sneaky thing called implicit costs. It forces you to answer one of the toughest questions in business. What's the best thing I could be doing with my time and money instead? That's opportunity cost, and it's the secret ingredient here. Let's make this real with a quick example. So, say hello to Erin. She's a sharp lawyer, and she's got this dream of hanging her own shingle, starting her own firm. She runs the numbers and figures she can probably bring in about $200,000 a year in revenue.
All right, now for the bills she'll have to pay, the explicit costs. She's going to need an office, that's $50,000, and a law clerk to help out, that's another $35,000. So we're looking at a total of $85,000 in direct, out-of-pocket expenses.
So, let's do the simple math for her accounting profit. You take that $200,000 in revenue, subtract the $85,000 in costs, and she's left with $115,000. That looks awesome. I mean, a six-figure income running her own show. What's not to love? But wait, hang on. We forgot about the single biggest cost of all. To do this, to start her own practice, Erin has to quit her current job. And at that job, she's making a nice, steady salary of $125,000 a year. That money she's giving up, that is a very, very real cost of her new venture.
And now, we calculate the true economic profit. We take her nice-looking accounting profit of $115,000, and we subtract that implicit cost, that salary she's leaving behind of $125,000. And suddenly, she's looking at a negative $10,000. From an economist's point of view, she'd actually be losing money. She would be working for herself to make less than she does now. And that insight is absolutely critical for business strategy.
Now, that idea of a hidden cost, that opportunity cost, brings us right back to our bookstore puzzle. It shows how businesses can get totally trapped by their circumstances, stuck in what economists call the short run. You see, in the short run, there's at least one input, one cost, that you are just stuck with. For a traditional bookstore, the perfect example is their one-year lease. It doesn't matter if they sell one book or 1,000,000 books, that rent check is the same every month. It's a fixed cost. Sure, they can change their variable costs, like hiring more clerks or ordering more books, but that physical space is a major constraint. And this table perfectly illustrates that short-run trap. Imagine your fixed input is a big two-person saw. That's like the bookstore's building. With one lumberjack, you get 4 trees. Not bad. You add a second, and boom, production jumps to 10 trees. That's synergy. But what happens when you add a second person, or a fourth? They just start getting in each other's way, and the extra output you get from each new person totally tanks.
What we just saw there has a name. It's the law of diminishing marginal productivity. And this explains the bookstore's dilemma perfectly. They were stuck with a fixed store size. They couldn't just throw 20 more clerks onto the floor to try and keep up with Amazon's volume, because eventually those new hires would just be tripping over each other, adding less and less value.
So, if the short run is a trap, how do you escape? Well, you stop playing that game. You play the long game. And this, my friends, is where Amazon's genius truly becomes clear. They were playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers.
See, the long run is an economic concept for a period of time where nothing is fixed. A business can change literally everything. It can build a bigger factory, it can invent new technology, it can move to a whole new city. It's a time of complete and total flexibility, where you can redesign your entire operation from the ground up to be as efficient as humanly possible.
And it was within this long-run mindset, this world of infinite possibility, that Amazon unleashed its ultimate weapon, the unbelievable power of scale.
It all boils down to this one incredibly powerful idea: economies of scale. It's just a fancy way of saying that the bigger you get, the cheaper it becomes to produce each individual thing. It's the Costco effect, right? By buying and selling in absolutely massive quantities, they can get a lower cost per item than the small corner store ever could.
So let's try to visualize this. In the long run, a company gets to choose what size it wants to be. It could build a little factory, and that would give it one cost curve. Or it could build a medium one, a large one, or a truly massive one. Each size choice comes with its own unique U-shaped curve that shows its costs at different levels of production. Now imagine you could just skim the bottom, the most efficient point of every single one of those possible short-run curves. If you connect those dots, you get this big swooping master curve. This is the long-run average cost curve. It's like a cheat sheet for a business, showing them the absolute rock-bottom cheapest way to produce any amount of stuff at any scale they choose.
And this curve tells a story, kind of like a company's life cycle. On the left, as you're growing, your average costs go down. That's economies of scale. Then you might hit a flat spot in the middle, a kind of sweet spot where getting bigger doesn't really make you any more efficient. But then, if you get too big, things can get messy. You know, too much bureaucracy, too many meetings, and your costs per unit actually start to go up. That's diseconomies of scale.
And here it is. This is the aha moment that solves our whole mystery. The traditional bookstore, they were stuck operating on a tiny, inefficient, short-run curve, way up high. Their minimum possible cost for each book was high. But Amazon, they weren't even playing the same game. They built a business model designed from day one to operate at a massive scale, way down at the absolute lowest point of that long-run curve. Their cost per book wasn't just a little lower, it was fundamentally, structurally unbeatable.
And this whole story isn't just about Amazon and bookstores. These economic ideas explain why entire industries are built the way they are, why some are full of small mom-and-pop shops and others are dominated by just a handful of giants.
Ultimately, the shape of this long-run average cost curve is like an industry's DNA. If the curve has a really deep, narrow bottom, it means there's one optimal size, and you often get an industry of equals. But if it has a long, flat bottom, well, that means businesses of all different sizes can compete and survive. And that leaves us with one final, big question to chew on. Technology is constantly changing the shape of these curves. It's always lowering the cost of doing business or creating new ways to achieve massive scale. So the real question for us isn't if another industry will get transformed just like the bookstores did, it's which one is next.